warmth, attention, love. That's the best way to communicate. The tension of growing up in a home where there's no love destroys the child's mind. This world is a world of tests, and we have to teach our children how to manage those tests. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I will speak very slow, so this way everyone understands me. I want to say thank you so much to Pamela for making today possible. So thank you, Pamela. You did a great job. So I went to NYU and Harvard, and I thought I was going to have, like in New York, 1.7 children and a dog. I ended up having 7 children. So I'll try to share some of the thoughts with you about that. Although I think I should give them a little background, who I am. My great-grandfather was born in Halab in Syria, and he moved the family to Yerushalayim. From Yerushalayim they went to Buenos Aires. One of the sons, my grandfather, decided, let me try some traveling. So he went to Cairo, Egypt. He got married to a Tawil. He brought her back to Buenos Aires. She missed her mother. So I want to go back home. So they went back, and he had 9 sons, and I was born one from one of those sons. I was born in Cairo, Egypt. Speak fluent Arabic, kalam Arabi kwayes. Speak fluent, pretty good French, je parle français très bien. Working on my Spanish, Hebrew, Mitsuyan, Mitavil Mitsuyan, Baruch Hashem. So my father and my uncles were students of Hacham Ovadia Yosef when he was chief rabbi of the country of Egypt. That was his first job when he finished yeshiva, Porat Yosef. And after the 6-day war, we moved to the United States. I grew up in the Syrian community in Brooklyn, great community. Yeshiva University High School for boys, NYU and Harvard College for my pre-medical studies, NYU College of Medicine. I don't know if you know, but I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I did 30,000 surgeries in my life. I specialized in sports medicine and foot surgery. I was sent to Los Angeles in 1984 to be a doctor for the Olympic Games. I came back, I started to practice in medicine, but I'll tell you what happened. What changed my life was I had a great Rabbi. You see, in 1973, in the Syrian community, a very important man came to live in our area. His name is Rabbi Avigdor Miller, and he changed my life forever. He's considered one of the probably number 3, number 4 personalities in the last 100 years. And I asked him every question, and he guided me. And he told me, sir, you're going to be a doctor in the afternoon, and in the morning I want you to teach. So I began a career of teaching 35 years ago, in the morning, yeshivot. Mostly for boys coming back from Israel. You know, in New York, you graduate high school, you go to Israel for a year or 2 and come back and do college. I'm a very big believer of that, by the way. I think going to Israel makes you mature, makes you responsible, makes you atzmi, makes you independent. So you don't have like silly, spoiled children. We're going to talk about spoiled children today, a little bit. And yeah, I think we can all talk about that. Yeah. So, and so thank God, and over the years I developed thousands of students. In the morning I would teach, in the afternoon I would do surgery, and in 2001 I moved to Miami to continue my work as a doctor. That's what I thought. But when I got there, they said, yeah, we heard you know how to speak. We want you to be a dugmat chayim, a live example. So we're going to make you talk every Wednesday night in the University of Miami. So I used to come in with my all blood on my surgery scrubs and teach. And Friday night on Shabbat, hundreds and hundreds of people came to my house. Many people have never experienced Shabbat in their life. And they said, wow, my daughters would come, Papi, she turned the light on Shabbat. I said, just leave her alone, don't bother her. Let them do whatever they want to do. You know, I just want them to experience what Shabbat is all about. And many people got religious and became religious. After 8 years, I thought I was set in Miami. I was a doctor in the afternoon, and every night I was teaching in a different city. Monday night, Aventura. Tuesday night, Miami Beach. Wednesday night, University of Miami. Thursday night, Coral Gables. Shabbat morning, I ran Avot Ovanim. I ran Avot Ovanim for 20 years in New York, so I know how to take care of the kids and keep them quiet on Shabbat, and teach them. And then I had to make a big decision. My daughters were getting older. They were not happy. They're New York girls. You know what a New York girl is? She can't wear Crocs in Miami. She has to have jewelry. She has to have her stuff, So I called one of the rabbis that I was very close to, because my rabbi passed away already. The Tasha Rebbe of Montreal was a big tzaddik. I said, I have a big decision to make. I bought a house in Miami, 5 years, I paid the architect $50,000. He didn't put a screw in the wall. What am I going to do? He says, it's time for you to go back. We need you in New York to teach. So I came back to New York. I thought I was going to go back into medicine. And I used to teach a class for Touro College called Wednesday Night Dating with Dr. Jack. Boys and girls came. I gave a shiur on dating. There was dinner for free. I never made a big deal about it. It was private. Somebody brought a camera. Says, can I tape you tonight? I said, I don't care. Put it on. So put it on. They put it on a website called Torah Anytime. Hashem Yirahem. 2 days later, I have emails coming from all over the world. Hong Kong, China, Denmark, Honduras, you name it. Australia, London, LA. I have problems in my relationship. I'm going out with this guy. Should I drop her? Should I drop him? I said, Hashem, you're talking to me now. I have to now make this my life. And this is my life today. I start my day at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'm on consultations either face-to-face or Zoom with people till 2 in the morning every night. It's what I love doing. Just to give you an idea, my classes have created 1,200 shidduchim. Just my classes, they average 100 a year. And I made 8 shidduchim in the last 4 months, but what I'm proud of, second and third marriages. I don't get the easy 21-year-old girl to 23-year-old guy. I get the girl, the divorced woman who's 46 with 7 kids, or 4 kids, and now try to give her a new life. So that's what's going on. So they gave me an interesting topic to talk about today, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. Let me start with a story. There's a place called Har HaMenuchot in Yerushalayim. Everyone knows where it is? That's where people get buried. Right? It's Har HaMenuchot. It's a cemetery. It's the biggest cemetery in Israel. There's a man there who's going, because it's his father's 20th yortzeit. And he brings them inyan so they could say Kaddish on the yortzeit. Again, please stop me if you don't understand anything. I'll explain. And they're getting ready to say Kaddish when a car comes up the mountain, and a man comes out of the car, and he then takes a red carpet, he spreads the red carpet to a certain grave, a kibbutz, and then he puts up 2 sticks and he puts a sign up. And they're watching this. What is going on? So the man says to his grandson, what are they doing? What does it say on that sign? So he goes down the mountain, the boy, he comes back and he says, Saba, his grandfather, you won't believe this. It says, Ruti, titnas'i li, Ruti, will you marry me? What is going on? What is going on? And they're angry. You're making fun of dead people? You think this is a joke? Ruti, will you marry me? What's going on? The guy gets back in the car and he leaves. Whoever put up the sign. Okay, so they go back, they're saying Kaddish, making mizonot, berachot for the person who passed away. 20 minutes later, he comes back, the car comes back, and they stop right next to the red carpet. The guy also put candles and roses, right? The girl comes out from the other side of the car. She walks on the carpet, she falls on the kibbutz and she starts to cry. Abba, Abba. And they said, no, now we have to get this story. What's going on over here? So they all leave their place, this group, and they go down to this zug, this couple. And they're angry, like, what kind of a joke you think you people are doing here? What is this? So she looks at the boy and she says, I think I have to tell them my story. So he says, I'll tell you my story. I grew up in Me'ah She'arim. You know Me'ah She'arim is? Very religious. In my house, there was no radio. There was no TV. There wasn't even any newspapers. My father studied Torah day and night. My mother was a mehanechet in a seminary. Our house was Torah only. That's it. No involvement with the outside world. And I was a good girl. And then, 8th grade, I started doing bad things. But my parents were so innocent, they didn't know anything. And then, when it came to high school, no problem. You know, in Israel, they have a problem. Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. The Sfaradi girls do not get into the best schools. It's a discrimination. It's still going on, right? She says, my father, he had a good name, so I had no problem. I got in like that. Within 4 months, they found out the bad things that I was doing, and they said, even though your parents are good people, we're throwing you out. And she says, my father used to wear a black coat, big beard, and they sat me down in the kitchen and said, Ruti, your mother and I are thinking about it. We didn't do anything wrong. We thought we gave you a good life, a good education. What happened? But we're not going to question you. We will love you and we will accept you. Within a couple of weeks, she's not wearing a skirt anymore. She's wearing shorts up to here, tank top, nose ring, lip ring, and now the hair is yellow and pink. And listen to this. Her father's in Kollel, and he says to her, every Tuesday and every Thursday, we're going to take a walk in the street together. Do you know what it's like for a rabbi in Kollel to walk with a girl looking like that? He never judged her. Every Tuesday and every Thursday, she's walking with the tank top, cut off jeans, nothing. She says, I would come home on Shabbat, and I'd put the music on. And all the neighbors, we live in Me'ah She'arim, know that I'm playing music. My parents didn't say a word. They just loved me. That's all they did. They loved me, and they supported me, and they gave me money. And I tried to make their life Gehinam. When my brothers and my sisters got married, I knew what they were going to tell me. You better make sure that you get dressed b'tzniut. No, nobody said a word to me. So I came however I want. Nobody said anything to me. No opposition whatsoever. I moved out. I got myself an apartment in Tel Aviv. I had a nice job. I don't have any more connection with my parents. After 10 years, I said, I want to do teshuvah. I feel bad. My parents were there. They supported me all my life. But I'm not telling them. I'm not going to tell them. I want to do this quietly. So, the first Shabbat, I said, you know what? I'll read a little Tehillim, but I'll still go to the movies. I'll go out with my friends, have a cigarette, kos cafe, whatever. Little by little, she worked herself up until she was finally Shomer Shabbat. That night, she planned on calling her parents to say, I kept my first Shabbat in 15 years. She's getting ready. She can't wait for Shabbat to be over so she could call them. The minute Shabbat's over, she gets a phone call. Ruti, terutzi achshav lahadasa. Abba had a heart attack. So she runs, and she's in the emergency room, and they're working on him in the emergency room. And the doctor comes out. He passed away. She flips out. Abba, how could you do this to me? I'm your daughter. I wanted you to see that I came back. I did teshuvah. I wanted you to be so proud of me. Abba, you can't do this to me. She says the next day was the funeral. I fainted. And then during the Shiva, my sisters and my brothers told me, don't worry, Abba's still alive. And he remembers everything. And he hears everything. He says, after that event, I started Shidduchim. And I started Shidduchim. And he, suggested a couple of boys. They weren't the right boys until David, the guy who put the carpet out, David came into my life. Now David had the same history like me. He came from a religious family, went off the derech a little bit, but he didn't have the support that I had. And we got close. And David was asking himself, what's the best place in the world that I could propose to her for engagement? So David told me he's going to pick me up, but he's not telling me where it's coming from. He picks me up, Shmuel Hanavi, he says, I'm taking you somewhere, and he puts a blindfold on me, and he takes her to Hamin. He says, I want to ask you to marry me in front of your father, because he's here right now. And when they heard that story, they flipped out. And that's the story. And the message here is that I'm not going today to focus on ways for you to communicate. That's not what I want to send you here. I want to tell you it starts before that. Communication is the problem if you're behaving the right way in front of your children and you're giving them good role models. They will listen. You saw what happened here? A religious rabbi was willing to accept busha, embarrassment, to walk with his daughter in cut-off jeans and a tank top and pink hair, and he didn't care what other people said because he gave her ahava, he gave her love. And this, ladies, is the most important thing today. Years ago, there was something called strict discipline. It doesn't work today that well. Today, if you're too hard with them, they will leave. And they will find friends on the internet that are not good for them. That's why it's important. It's your children's lives. And we have to understand that we need shalom bayit in the house. A child that sees shalom bayit in the house is a child that's not going to run away. Is a child that sees that his home or her home is a fortress because they see good role models. People tell me they have such hatred to their parents because of what they saw in the home. They don't want to see the parents anymore. The pain, the anger between them, people fighting. This world is a world of tests, and we have to teach our children how to manage those tests. If the child sees good role models in the house, the child's not going to be tempted by the outside world. Sometimes we have money, shlanu kesef, we have flus, right? Rich parents think that we can give a child iPads and toys and trips and replace that with attention. No, you can't steal. It doesn't work. You must give quality attention to the children. Don't think that you could replace, here's your credit card, go buy whatever you want, v'ta'azov, leave me alone, because I'm busy, because I have to deal with my business, or I have to deal with my other things. It's not going to work. It's important that you realize that you can't bribe a child today. Money in their pocket is not good, it's counterproductive. Children should have errands. They should have jobs to do in the house. They should prepare the Shabbat table. They should clean a little bit. They should involve themselves. If it comes easy, it goes easy. And it should be responsible, the kind of behavior. Let me tell you a story of a guy named Alan. His daughter used to faint all the time. Just faint. They went to a rabbi, they went to doctors, no one could figure it out. So they went to a rabbi, he says, you fight in front of her all the time, and that's why she faints. And he says, you won't believe it. When I was a child, my parents also used to have problems and used to fight, and I used to faint. It passes down. Listen to what happened. He tells his story. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you an amazing story. I have a guy in New York that I must have set him up with 40 girls. Baruch Hashem, he just got engaged. I set him up, and he's getting married in a month. If I even discuss his mother, he starts to sweat. He gets so anxious. There was such a bad divorce. His mother is Lebanese, the father is Persian, whatever. I'm saying there was such a bad divorce that if I even talk to his, say anything, is your mother coming to the party? Is your mother? No, don't talk to me about her, Dr. Jack. I don't want to know. He gets frightened. He's so frightened that I had to send him to a psychiatrist just to put him on medicine to calm him down. The mother called me last week for the first time. I never spoke to her. She says, you know, I heard my son talks about you all the time. You helped him so much. There was a meeting between the families to discuss what's going to happen with the wedding. The girl's parents and her parents. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy, this guy. He's such respect. He told his mother, get out of the car. I don't want to talk to you. He has such fear from her, from the past, that he's traumatized from it. Because she screamed at him all his life. She didn't give him warmth. She screamed at him. He's happy if she doesn't even come to the wedding. That's how bad it is. So we have to remember that their minds are like wet clay. And if we don't respect that, we can hurt them forever. Children can become sick from these things. Let's hear about Alan's story. I don't want to speak Lashon Hara, he says, about my parents. They taught us good values and they gave us love. But they don't know how much their fighting hurt us. I was a good boy. My teachers said I had excellent potential. I could be a professional, do whatever I want. But if someone insulted me, I was so traumatized from what happened in the house that I could kill people. That's how angry I used to be. I had uncontrollable anger. Uncontrollable anger. My parents would argue. They would curse each other. They would abuse each other. Not for big things. Like, where's the coffee? What happened to the salt on the table? Small things made big fights. As a child, I needed psychological therapy for 6 years. And I couldn't adjust to social situations. When children see this behavior, it ruins their life. All my brothers and sisters needed therapy because of what we saw in the house. And there was no problem with money. We had plenty of money. We lived in Israel 45 years ago. We went to hotels for every holiday. That wasn't easy for most families, but we had plenty of money. When my mother would see real estate, she'd say to my father, buy that property for me. He had enough cash in his pocket, plenty of flus. He could buy that house without a problem. And the money just disappeared. And my father didn't gamble. He didn't smoke. But I know absolutely that the problems came in our life because of their lack of their ability to get along together. And as a result, I didn't want to get married. Because as a child, you don't see things the way adults see them. You magnify it much worse. The tension of growing up in a home where there's no love destroys the child's mind. And guess what? I grew up, I found myself behaving exactly the way my father behaved. I copied his behavior. Because when people get angry, it makes them feel powerful. And they don't realize the amount of damage that they can do. And he says, I'm telling this story for the good of people. Because I don't want people to suffer the way we suffered. Every child is born a good soul. They want to do the right thing. And if they get love and they get attention, communicating with them will never be a difficulty. They're never going to run away because they're always going to find their home as the safety home, the place to go. But when that child is abused and is traumatized because they see things that are unacceptable, it can destroy them. I love my parents. I would never want to exchange my parents. All I wanted was for them to be happy. And that's important. They gave us money, but they didn't realize the damage that it did to us. At the age of 27, I was hospitalized with a heart attack. Treatments cost me a load of money. Anybody who hears these stories must realize that when it comes to raising children, it's an enormous responsibility. And I'm very proud of everyone in this room. You know why? Because I know your values. They're my values also. We're very homey. We're very family oriented. But we live in a world today where there's a lot of distractions. Sitting at the table, cell phone all the time, going on Instagram, Facebook, that. We're all affected by these. And it's eating away at the time that we have to spend with our children. And we have to remember something, that it costs. This world is an expensive hotel. Nothing is for free. If you give up something, it's going to cost you. It's a lot easier to be able to give a little bit more time and attention to the children, and as a result, they will listen to you. Which means you have to make the time to spend a little quality time with each child. Take them out for ice cream, take them out for a walk, spend quality time with the children. That's very important. They are our future, and they are our highest priority. Unfortunately today, we've become so self-absorbed that we're not paying attention to them. There was a great rabbi in America called Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. He was the #1 rabbi in the last 100 years. He said something fascinating. In 1988, he gave a class and he took out the white pages of New York. You know, today we don't need a book to find out people's telephone numbers. We just Google everybody. But 40 years ago, I remember, there was the white pages and there was the yellow pages. The white pages was for the telephone number of people's homes, and the yellow pages is for business. And he had the book for 1955 and 1985. And he says, look at the difference. The 1955 book was that wide, and the 85 book was half the size. What happened? He said, when they came from Europe and they wanted to get jobs 100 years ago, Friday afternoon, the boss says, I'll see you tomorrow. But what's tomorrow? Shabbat. I can't come. Oh, you're not coming? Don't come back Monday. We don't want you. So all these parents, Rav Feinstein said, came home and said, it's so hard to be Jewish. It's a burden. The children heard this. So the second generation says, who needs it? Because the message that was sent in the house was that Judaism was a burden. So what happened? We lost half the telephone book. Gone. All these names from 1955 that were Jewish disappeared. Gone. They left the faith. Because the parents' attitude was, keeping Shabbat is hard. Keeping Shabbat is difficult. They didn't convey Judaism as fun, as happy. The Torah, the mitzvot, the pleasure. So the role that a parent plays is so important. So I want to move to the next thing. You must express gratitude in the home. It's so important to always say to the children, say thank you for everything. Thank you for our eyes, and thank you for our lungs. And how many people, Bar Minan, passed away in the pandemic, but we're alive. Thank you for the vacation. Thank you for your gifts. Whatever it is, gratitude is so important. I'm going to tell you about me personally. I have 10 shuls that are 2 minutes away from me that I can pray in every day. I walk to a shul that's 30 minutes away so I could say thank you to Hashem every day. That is so important. This is what gives happiness. And when the children see this, and there's an environment of simha in the home, the children are going to pick up on it. But if there's complaining, you got problems. In Shidduchim, one of the things I teach all men and women is, I ask you, do me a favor, don't come home and tell your wife or your husband all your problems every day. That's the worst thing you can do. Once in a while, tell her a problem. Otherwise, BH, Baruch Hashem, done. If the house, if the environment is based on gratitude, you got it made. And it works. I'll give you an example. One of the people that I'm very close to is Rabbi Marush. He wrote The Garden of Emunah. He tells an amazing story. A guy gets married to a girl. He didn't tell her that he can't have children. Guess what? She didn't tell him she can't have children. So they get married. You can't hide it for long. You're in the bedroom. Nothing's going on. No kids. So they admitted to each other that they're both sterile. They can't have children. And they went to Hadassah, and they went to Europe and London and New York, and every doctor said, there's no hope. Both of you are incapable of having children. So they came to Rav Arush and he said, here's what I want you to do. 20 minutes every day, thank you Hashem, I can't have children. Take the problem and reverse it. You understand? Thank you, I can't have kids. I just want you to do that for me for 30 days. You tried everything anyway. You tried the doctors, didn't work. You tried. You went all over the world to the best clinic. Nothing's growing. And that's what he said to the husband said to his wife, what do we have to lose? Let's try it. So every day they said, thank you Hashem, we don't have kids. That's emunah. Emunah is I accept whatever happens in my life l'tova, for the best. That's gratitude. And they did this for 30 minutes. Today they have 4 kids. That's the power of Todah v'hoda'ah. You could take the worst problem in the world and fix it. Because Todah is lemala min teva. Teva is nature. We Jews are above nature. Nachnu lemala min teva. So we can make miracles like this. And the way to do this is gratitude. I teach this to all the singles. Say, thank you that I'm single. Thank you Hashem, it's for the best. And just ask Hashem for rachamim that you should find your Ashkenazim say bashert or your shidduch now. You understand? But it starts with Todah v'Avodah. If the children hear this, and that's the environment of the house, I guarantee you they're going to come out fantastic. I saw this in my life. I'll tell you my own son. Listen to this. My kids go to Yeshivat Ateret Torah, very religious school in New York. It's considered the Harvard of Sfaradi Yeshivot in the world. My son, my third son, Yehuda, says to me in 8th grade, I don't want to go to their high school. I'm not interested. I want to go to a co-ed school. I'm like, you got to be kidding. What are you talking about? Your 5 brothers and sisters ahead of you went to Ateret Torah. It's a guarantee. No, I don't want to. It's time for his bar mitzvah. Is it this? It's time for his bar mitzvah. And I said, okay, I have to buy you a black hat. Because Rabbi said, buy me a hat. So we're going to go to Israel, but we have to stop over in Moscow. He lost the hat purposely and kept it in the airport in Moscow. I said, Yerushalayim, where's your hat? No, I forgot it in Russia. Okay, I'm always saying thank you. Hashem, it's all for the best. We come back and it's the pandemic. He says to me, okay, call the rabbi of the school. Co-ed school, boys and girls, right? Anyway, I called. I said, he wants to make an appointment. So I go in with him in the middle of the summer, because we usually spend the summer in the Jersey Shore near Deal. Anyway, he comes in, and we go into the school. Now you have to understand, his school is considered the number 1 in Limudei Kodesh. He walks in for the test, and the principal, who has hair up to here, says to him, you failed the Gemara test. It's like telling an Eskimo he doesn't know how to build snow. So what are you talking about? He says, you failed the test. I saw how Hashem was engineering the whole thing now, changing everything. So I said, Yehuda, that's the school you wanted to go to. I was ready to let you go. The guy said, you don't know how to read Gemara. I said, that's not possible, Abba. We're the best in the city at this. He ends up going back to his school. Today, he's in the Beit Midrash 16 hours. He only allows us to... Oh, listen to this. I'm not saying or suggesting what your children should do, but he won't even come home for lunch. My wife has to deliver the lunch to the Beit Midrash on the 5th floor, so he doesn't waste time. He comes home and gives us 20 minutes for dinner. The point is not what he did, but how I responded to the challenge. I never complained. I never said anything. I just said, thank you, Hashem. It's all for the best. Let him live his life, but he's going to see in me the right way to respond. And when you have a house like that, when you have a house of gratitude, that's how you build great children, because that gratitude brings simcha. And simcha allows the children, like flowers, to bud, to shine. They don't hear insults. I'm not saying we're perfect. I always have to work on ourselves. But they don't hear insults. They don't hear negativity. A house that's driven on todah v'hoda'ah, on gratitude, is a house that's going to raise fantastic children. That they should be excited about their Judaism. That's very important. Do you know what was the worst sin in the world that was ever done? That we're paying for until today? You heard of the Miraglim? Remember the spies? What did they say? Hashem said, I have a gift for you. It's a great gift. Eretz Yisrael. You're going to go in, and if everything would have been okay, Mashiach would have come. No, not good. Complained. Hashem says, Atem bechitem laila echad, ani mevaka la'ad netzach. You cried for one night, you will cry forever. That is the power of complaining. Until today, we're paying for that mistake. The mistake of the spies, the mistake of complaining. We have to understand something, that when Hashem sees that we're grateful, He says, oh, you said thank you? You didn't see anything. Now I'm going to open all the doors for you. But when Chas v'Shalom there's complaining, Hashem says to the Malachim, close all the windows. I don't even want their tefillot. I'm going to close with a beautiful story. I'm going to tell you something amazing. It was the yortzeit of Kever Rachel. And there was a lot of people in Bethlehem by the Kever. Two Hasidic guys wanted a lift back to Yerushalayim. So in Israel it's called tramping. So a car stops and takes them, and they're speaking in Yiddish. So they feel uncomfortable because they're talking in a language that the driver doesn't understand. So they start speaking in Hebrew. And said, we are learning in yeshiva. It's so hard. How are we going to, make the month and pay the bills? We'll never be able to buy an apartment in Israel. So the driver says to them, you want to hear my story? I'll tell you my story. I grew up in a house, wasn't religious. My father worked for the Israeli television network, and we needed some extra money. So at night, he was the head maitre d' in a wedding hall. It's called Sason V'Simcha Hall. Now in Israel, when there's a wedding, they make a very big celebration. They bring the wedding cake, and there's candles, and the maitre d' lights the candles. Sometimes the candles don't light. So in his pocket, he has a small little bottle of oil, fuel. He goes, bam, 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 and now the oil makes the candle light. So one night there was a wedding, and he brings out the cake, and he tries to light the candle, and it's not lighting. So he brings out the fuel oil, and he squirts it, and the candle light, and now the cake goes on fire. Next to the cake is two girls, 12 years old. They run right into the cake, and one girl is on fire. She's burning. Everyone is paralyzed, no one wants to do. The smart guy was the photographer. He goes to one of the tables, he pulls off the tablecloth, and he wraps her in the tablecloth. But the damage was done. She had third-degree body burns all over her body. And the driver is telling them, my father is not a small guy. He was in the Golani Brigade. He doesn't cry. My father started to cry and blame himself that he was responsible for what happened. And the parents of the girl said, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not your fault. And he went with them in the ambulance to Hadassah Hospital. And he's begging them to forgive him. He said, it's okay. And they took her to the hospital. And then from there, she was there for a month. They transferred her to a special burn hospital in France, in Tzarfat, in Paris. And he goes, we never heard from her again. From that day, my father decided, maybe I should start thinking about being Choser B'Tshuva. And he became religious, and he said to me, would you be interested? You want to become Shomer Shabbat? No. Abba, ze b'shilcha, lo b'shvili. My father never fought with me. He accepted me. He gave me warmth. He gave me love. He gave me attention. I grew up. I went into the IDF. I was in the Israeli army. I finished after 4 years. I needed avodah. So I looked around for a job. And there was a man who owned 20 stores in Israel called Metukim Zishelanu. He sold candy and chocolate, and he hired me. And I was his manager. And you know, I wasn't Shomer Shabbat, I didn't keep anything. His name was Sharon, he was Choser B'Tshuva, the owner. And he goes, you know, you're a nice guy. It's about time you got married. You're 35 years old now. Let's go. He says, how about going out with this girl over here, Galit? She's also not religious. Go out with her. Maybe this is a shidduch. They go out. And they like each other. And it's going good. Now he's getting ready to ask her to marry him. But he has one question. He says to her, Galit, tagid li, how come you dress? You're not religious. Why do you dress like you live in Bnei Brak? And she says to him, I really don't want to talk about it. So what? Tell me. When I was 12 years old, I was burned in a fire in a wedding hall. And the guy turns white. Was it Sason V'Simcha Hall in Yerushalayim? And she says, yes. She says, I don't think you ever want to talk to me again. My father was the maitre d' that started that fire. He says, no, maybe Hashem is talking to us over here. I want to meet him. It's maybe 25 years. I want to see him. Right? So they go to his father, he starts to cry. You're the girl, I remember. And he felt bad. He says, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. It's fine. P.S. They get married. And they move into her mother's house, because they didn't have a lot of kesef. Right? She didn't say anything. Into her mother's house in Ma'aleh Adumim, which is right outside Yerushalayim. After a year, he says, you know what? I don't feel so comfortable taking advantage of your mother. I want to rent our own apartment. Listen to what she tells him. Do you know, after the fire, there was a lawsuit. My parents collected 10 million shekels. They bought me a 4-bedroom apartment in King George in Rechavia. It's waiting for me. Right now. You don't have to rent. I own one. So the driver says to them, don't you ever worry about the future. To the boys in the back of the car, Hashem took care of me. Hashem will take care of all of us. The idea is just to make that hishtadlut. So that's the message that I want to leave everyone here today. Warmth, attention, love. That's the best way to communicate. No judgment. Don't judge them. Understand that today the children have a lot of tests, a lot of challenges. But with warmth, attention, and time, don't let the busyness of your life distract you from spending the time with them, so that you should be able to get along with them. Be'ezat Hashem, they'll all build great Jewish homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your kind words.
Pleasure.
And thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I don't know if we have time for 10 minutes for questions.
Absolutely. By the way, if anybody wants to ask me any questions, Pamela, you can give these out. These are my cards. They can always WhatsApp me, send me any questions. I'm happy to help. Does anybody have any questions? Fakasha, go.
Where's the line between educating them and
I can't hear.
where's the line between educating them and let them be whatever they want to do?
Hanoch anar pi darko. You know what? I have my oldest daughter is a role model in the community, in the Syrian community. She's responsible to teach girls that are not so religious, you know, how to pray and Tehillim, etc. Okay? That's my oldest daughter. She wears skirts up to here. My second daughter wears skirts up to here. I don't judge them. She's a social worker, she's a fashionista. It's her thing. So it's very individual. You have to set rules, it's very important, but at the same time, you have to have some flexibility. Yeah.
But in that, what you're saying, that then it becomes a two-way, because there's like, okay, I want my sons or my daughter or whatever to be like this, but he's being like that. How can I be how can I?
You can, let me explain something to you. You can show them what you want, you can't force it on anybody. You understand?
But
Yeah.
then you're maybe going to educate somebody that you're not willing to, or that you don't wish to be, like you don't want your daughter to.
Stop living their life for them. That's called projection. You understand? Don't want, I was talking about this yesterday. Sometimes a person says, I don't want you to get married young because I got married young and you didn't see the world, so I want you to go out and travel and do whatever you want. Let them come to their own conclusions. You give them the Chinese menu and let them make those decisions. You give them the best values that you know, and at the end you have to trust that child will make responsible decisions.
I keep Shabbat, but
Right.
I don't cover my hair. And
Okay?
I use pants, but I try to guide my kids that they have to keep Shabbat, don't turn off the light and stuff like that. But when it comes to nude, I have those with my daughter in 8th grade because I don't want her to use sandals and dress like this.
Yeah.
She knows that to the synagogue she cannot wear a short or a skirt, but I don't like how she goes out. And when my family sees her, they tell me, how do you let her and her? So how do we?
How old is she?
13
Oh.
to 14.
13 going on 50. The ways of life or the Torah are pleasant and should lead to peace. You could talk to her nicely and say to her, you have to be refined, you have to look adin, it's important that you have tzniut. Oh, I'm going to tell you something even better. Listen to this. I was mentoring a Ukrainian model in New York who was Jose de Pechuva. I mean, this girl was gorgeous. Okay? And she told me something. We were talking about tzniut, and I said to her, women who are not sanua think that the guy is staring them because he admires them. I said to her, he doesn't admire you. He has thoughts in his head. That's what he's thinking. He has other thoughts. I said to her, and not good thoughts. So you know what she says to me? She says to me, when I used to go to the clubs in Manhattan, if I dressed like really revealing, low-life boys came to me. But if I was dressed more elegantly, a whole different guy tried to pick me up. Look at the difference and how what you wear affects how people, respond to you. You understand? So even a guy who's not religious at all, but if he sees the woman who's vice president of a bank wearing, a nice Ralph Lauren suit, he admires her, he respects her. So tell her it's for the respect that's going to bring you and the response from society that you'll get from it.
But there is a contradiction with the example you gave.
Yeah.
With their Measharim girl that used to wear short pants, that the father had to accept her like she was, and he didn't tell her anything, and didn't criticize her, and now you're like...
No, he didn't criticize her. I'm not criticizing here. I'm simply telling her that it's in your benefit. You understand? That
So we shouldn't let them wear what they want.
I would prefer that's what you tell her. You understand? Not force, because if you're going to be dafkanik, they're going to do it against you. It would give me pleasure to see you dress better, you look more elegant, you look more refined, you'll get more kavod from people. Anyone else?
So they're not punishments.
No.
Not for the dress, for...
Punishments? No, you have to have. There has to be some discipline. There has to be consequences.
But I don't know.
Meaning that if they do something that against your rules, they have to punish. Yeah, maybe it depends on what it is, really. There has to be consequences. Even in a school, we have to have rules. If there's no rule, you can't just decide, come in 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. You have to come when school begins.
Maybe he decides not to, I don't know, not to study so much in the school, so that's the way he kind of,
Encourage him. So in a case like that, pay him. Give him some extra money.
Because
Yeah.
that they should choose their, like, whatever they want. So how when we
When do you know?
when we should yes,
When do you know when to punish them?
when you should draw the line, like,
It really depends on what they do. If it's something that's very unacceptable, it's a problem. Like, for example, let's say they spoke Lashon Hara and they caused the fight. Teach them to say, I'm sorry, to the person they caused the pain to. Go.
How do we guide kids with their friends? Sometimes they have friends that they're not the best. Well, I think they're not the best, and I tell them, and he says, 15, 16, Mommy, I choose my friends and wherever I went. I know you choose your friends, but choose wisely, I tell them, but how do I guide them?
Very important. One of the questions I tell people to ask when they're going into shidduchim is, who are your friends? And what do you look for in a friend? And what values do you look for in a friend? Because your friends will determine your success or your failure. And again, it's saying it with love. It's telling them, I love you. I want you to be matzliach. I want you to be successful. And Baruch Hashem, a woman, a mother, has what's called Bina Yetera, a very special way to understand that some girls or boys are not good for her children. Mommy loves you, she cares about you, and this child will not bring out your best potential. This person is not going to lead you in a way that will allow you to succeed. And it could ruin your future. So you should think 2 or 3 times if you want to remain their friend, because they're doing things that are not acceptable, and that's going to hurt your future and your success.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
I see that you're very into like the gentle parenting, right? I want to know, when do you think that we need to, if there's any situation where you're not supposed to be like, you're not supposed to be gentle, and you say, okay, now it's time to like, anything that's critical enough for that, to like shut off this gentle parenting.
You know why I'm gentle parenting? I wasn't raised that way. Yeah, I wasn't raised that way. I deal with Jews all day long from all over the world. I see so much tragedy that sometimes I can't talk to people for 2 or 3 days. So many people that were results of horrible homes that I came to the conclusion, I can't tell you specifically what crime is like Hok velo ya'avor, that's not doable. You understand? That I came to my own conclusion that force is very dangerous. Very dangerous. Do you know that one of the guys from Netflix, I was on Netflix, I think you know that, right? Okay, so Noah, bald guy, 6 years, Mir Yeshiva, he was religious. And it was forced on him. And now he has no interest whatsoever. So, because I deal with people all over the world and I see the consequences of forced parenting, I take a position, communication is key. I teach communication in Shidduchim, I teach communication in Shalom Bayit, I teach communication in parenting. Communication is so important. More important than just like tach, tach, tach. That's not going to accomplish anything. I will build a relationship with you and I'll try to show you with warmth and love why it's better for you. But I can't tell you specifically what crime it is. Maybe you and I can have a chat. You can call me anytime and tell me specifically what is it so we can decide together. Is it worth getting very difficult with the child? I don't know.
I had another question.
Go ahead.
I feel like since like COVID and like everybody's like home for so long, that a lot of the kids are very unmotivated and like many things. Like they'd rather really just sit on their cell phone than go out or sit on their iPad or sit on whatever. Like I don't know, how do you motivate them to get back to like normalcy?
Is the child doing well in school?
Some yes, I mean I have 3 kids that are, 1 kid that's not.
And is the child that's not doing well as a result of spending too much time on the device?
Not really. They're just lazy. Like, they don't want.
So you have to use the Skinner reflex, from psychology. When someone does something good, they get rewarded. So it could be a vacation you'll give them, or a bonus in the bank. Find a way to motivate them by reward.
But not much.
No. Yeah.
Connect to our second question. So, like, I feel in my house the technology. I fight against the technology with my kids.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. So I all the time. If I tell them stop this computer, they go to the cellular, they go to the television. So it's all the time around that. And I feel that I try to put some rules in the house, but eventually it's. I know I'm the policeman, and then I tell them get out of the computer now, and just like come to eat. I need to call them many times until they come. I think they leave the computer to eat, or like I feel I'm inside my house. I feel I don't have the rules or the I don't know something that I don't know. I can say that I'm controlling the situation. They're lazy. Yeah, I think they're lazy. They're just sitting in front of the computer
and doing the thing.
The games, of course, sometimes with their friends, okay, communication with friends, but I think it's addicted. It's kind of become addiction. So, I don't know.
You see, I have to be very careful with this. My kids go to a school that cell phones are not allowed. So my 9-year-old knows she has computer time Sunday. That's her day off. 9 to 11, she can watch whatever she wants, Barbie, and all that stuff. It becomes a whole different situation when the kids are allowed a cell phone. And now controlling it is one of the most difficult challenges in the world, because the addiction to a cell phone is not normal. So it's a problem. It's an ongoing challenge. I don't have a specific solution for you other than there's specific times that you allow it. You understand? I can only tell you from my life that my children, the daughter that's now 9 years old, she knows she has Sunday, she's waiting for it. Boom. Even if she slept 3 hours, 9 o'clock, she's waiting for me to turn the computer on because she knows that's her time. That's the best that I could tell you, that you have to establish certain times. In our high school, they have to sign a contract that they can't have a cell phone till after high school for the boys. The girls are allowed to have. And I'm saying, but again, it's very managed. So you have to be a little strong and establish time. That's allowed. Have a good day.